higher ages than that, but that's the majority. And what we do is once they come in as a survivor, if they survive the injury, as soon as they're medically stable and able to consent, I'll go to the bedside and offer them alternatives to retaliation and alternatives to the high-risk lifestyle that was probably a part of them being injured in the first place. Our services are free to them, they're confidential, and they're voluntary, meaning they don't have to participate in the program. But I do encourage them, and sometimes it takes more than one offer for the service before they'll realize that maybe this is something they want to try. Just in a brief, our services involve providing them with whatever they need to stay out of the street, out of the hospital, out of the morgue, and out of the crossfire. About 80% of our clients have not finished high school, so we help them get back in school, or if they want to go on to college or trade school, we'll help them with that. Roughly 80% are unemployed and uninsured, so they need medical assistance, ongoing and follow-up. They need jobs or jobs training. About 80% of them have a history of substance abuse or dealing drugs, so we help them with those kinds of issues. Many of them come with post-traumatic stress issues, so we offer counseling and therapy if they need that. Many have lawyers' needs for legal services to maybe file charges against who injured them, because not everybody is a perpetrator who comes to our doors. They may need help with getting right with their child support issues, or filing for getting their driver's license back, or so on. So we help them in whatever ways they need that will keep them healthy, on a healthy track, and provide a prescription for living. That, in a nutshell, is what we do.
Are there any other organizations that are in the hospitals doing what you do?
Well, in Cincinnati, no. And across the country, I spoke with the people who did the show recently called Black in America, and the reporter who was doing the research for that said that there were about 10 in the whole country that are providing at the bedside services for survivors.
So we're talking about an organization and a program that doesn't have anyone else that's doing what you do.
Right.
So you're providing a service and an opportunity at the point where they're injured, at the point where they may have the greatest opportunity to be able to open up, to listen to this conversation, engage in this opportunity, and move forward.
That's it.
I think that when we look at this, I mean, for us as an organization, I mean, that's huge to be able to have an organization that supports these men at that point. All too often what happens is men that have suffered these types of injuries are left to their own bedside. I mean, they have people that come and visit them, and the only visits they get are people that are not necessarily empathetic or sympathetic to them, but are a part of the process, a part of the problem.
Right.
So you get family and friends talking about, well, once you get out of this bed, once you get okay, then we're going to get them back. We're going to get them back. We're going to handle our business. And so I think that the revenge element is certainly is a crucial part of this as you look at repeat offenders. I mean, certainly that we know that there are a lot of victims of violent crime that have been a victim of violent crime time and time again.
Right.
And that there have been people that have been multiple gunshot victims.
Our studies show that once a person has been injured by gun violence, they are at much higher risk of having a similar injury in the future. Roughly 25 to 30% of the survivors come back with a second or third gunshot wound.
So if you're a person out there, and remember, this is the Genesis Men's Hour, it's a live call-in television show, that if you're someone who has suffered a gunshot injury or been a victim of violent crime, certainly we want to get your input and your feedback in this conversation. Or if you have any advice or you know anybody out there that is dealing with these issues, then you can refer them to Out of the Crossfire. That it's a great program, an excellent opportunity for us to be able to deal with and address a lot of the issues that lead to it. It sounds like Out of the Crossfire deals with a lot of the issues that lead up to the problem.
We do try, and we have a weekly life skills group, and people who have survived and are willing come back to the hospital, and it's a support group, it's a life coaching group, and we also try to help our clients not only be prepared to get a job, but to keep a job. So just basic skills and basic values and principles we try to reinforce while we're there. And during that time, we do have people who are actually giving back, who want a better way of life, a different way of life, and some of them now are actually participating in the program, helping others who are just coming through and maybe not believing that there's help and a way to do a life differently. And so we have one of those people with us here today.
Okay. So, Lorenza, we have Lorenza Eppes with us, a member of Out of the Crossfire. If you could just talk about your experiences, what led you to Out of the Crossfire, what you've experienced since being a part of Out of the Crossfire.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lorenzo. What brought me to the program was I was a victim of a robbery shooting in front of my house. For that incident, after coming out of surgery, to see the look on my wife's face when I was able to recognize her, I knew things weren't good. So when I saw her, I said I must have been one heck of a surgery. But to see the tears in her eyes, and for her to tell me that this is 12 surgeries later, was a shock to me. But before then, I knew I was a goner. I made peace with myself. I told my wife to tell my kids I loved them. I told her I loved her because I thought that was it. I saw the light. My light flashed before my eyes. And then to come to and see that light and to realize that it's a light in the room instead of a light.
The right light. It was the right light. It was the right light.
You kind of have to pinch yourself, to make sure you're not dreaming. But what got me into this program is Mrs. Williams, which was so persistent. The first time she came, I thought to myself, I don't need any counseling. I can do this. I'll be all right. But she kept coming. And she kept coming. I'm like, man, what am I going to tell this woman? But after talking with my wife, and after laying in that hospital for 6.5, close to a year, you go through different stages. Fear is the first one. Rage is the next. Revenge, retaliation is next. When a person shoots another person, they can't possibly understand the ripple in a person's life, because it doesn't stop at that robbery. There's a wife, there's a mother, there's a brother, there's a sister, there's an uncle. This ripple affects the whole family. And for my wife and kids to see what happened to me has devastated them more than it has me. I've always been a happy-go-lucky person. I've always been blessed. And so for this to happen to me for no reason other than somebody wanting to take something from me is devastating. Everybody, asks me, how do you deal with it? It's not easy, but it is because of the people that I'm around, that I'm involved with, my family, my upbringing. Believe me, I wanted to hurt somebody. But between those 4 teenagers who had the shirts wrapped around their face, I have no clue who to look for. And the anger that I had was not making me any better. For it to be a random situation, because I was afraid for my family being at home without me. To lay there, I had to forgive before I could start healing myself.